Yo, what is going on, everyone? My name is Nick, or The Notorious Fantasy, and in today's video, we're going to be going in depth into my week number 12 top 5 defenses to stream for the 2022 fantasy football season. But before we could get into things, I would like to ask that if you guys are new to the channel and you do end up enjoying today's video, that you please make sure to hit that subscribe button down below. And while you're down there, whether you are new to the channel or not, please make sure that you do leave a like on today's video. It would help me out a ton. If you want to follow me on Twitter, please do so at NotoriousFNTSY. The sponsor of today's video is BetMGM, who we're going to be talking about a little bit later. And if you have any questions about week number 12, please ask down below in the comment section or in the Discord linked in our pinned comment and in the video description. So without further ado, let's get into my week number 12 top 5 defenses to stream. We begin with my number 1 defense to be streaming on the week, the Washington Commanders, going up against the Atlanta Falcons at home in Washington. The Commanders defense is currently owned in 59% of leagues on Yahoo Fantasy, so if you play on NFL, CBS, ESPN, any of those other fantasy football platforms, then the ownership percentage might be a little bit different, though I will note in some cases there might be a drastic difference in ownership percentage. So in week number 11, the Commanders defense went up against the Houston Texans in Houston. In that game, they had 5 sacks, 2 interceptions, 1 touchdown, and just 10 points allowed. Obviously, the Houston Texans offense is complete and utter dog shit, so it shouldn't be very surprising that the Commanders were able to put up a solid defensive performance. But what has been very impressive to me is how good the Washington Commanders defense has played over the last couple of games, especially in the week prior up against one of the best offenses in the NFL in the Philadelphia Eagles. The Atlanta Falcons offense is dealing with some injuries. I'm going to assume right now that Kyle Pitts is not going to end up playing next week. Now, obviously, anything can happen, but that injury, to me, now I'm not a doctor, I'm as much of a doctor as Johnny Sins, looked pretty fucking serious, so I don't really expect him to be playing in that offense. It's not like he's a massive part of that offense, obviously, because if anyone has Kyle Pitts, they know that he doesn't get the ball enough, but hey, that is still a piece of their offense. The Bears defense, which isn't the greatest either, up against the Atlanta Falcons in week 1, or in week number 11 last week in Atlanta, 2 fumble recoveries and 27 points allowed. I really do think the Washington Commanders defense is a lot better than the Chicago Bears defense, and the Atlanta Falcons offense is pretty gross, so I fully expect yet another huge performance out of the Washington Commanders defense. Next up, we move to the Denver Broncos at number 2 up against the Carolina Panthers in Carolina, currently owned in 63% of leagues on Yahoo, but again, just because they're owned in 63% of leagues on Yahoo doesn't mean that on NFL or ESPN they're owned in that many leagues. Week number 11 up against the Las Vegas Raiders at home in Denver, 1 sack, 22 points allowed, and an L, a fat L to Derek Carr. The Denver Broncos offense is so hard to watch that we should be paid. We shouldn't have to pay to watch these fucking games. They should pay us to watch this Mr. Unlimited bullshit. It is so annoying to every single week try to get your hopes up. I mean, Russ didn't look that bad in that game, but man, oh man, has Russ been a disaster this season. But the one sole bright spot of this team is their defense, because their defense in Denver is fucking amazing. And the Carolina Panthers offense made the Baltimore Ravens defense in week number 11 on Sunday, just yesterday, look like the fucking 85 Bears. Ravens defense week 11 versus Carolina at home in Baltimore, 4 sacks, 2 interceptions, 1 fumble recovery, and, drumroll please, 3 fucking points allowed. 3 points allowed. And the Denver Broncos defense is better than the Baltimore Ravens defense. So I love the Denver Broncos as well as the Washington Commanders this week. If you wanted to argue with me that you prefer the Broncos defense, then go right ahead. Personally, I am slightly leaning with the Commanders over the Broncos defense. But hey, you do you, okay? At the end of the day, I'm not going to make too much of an argument about that. I do think there is a slight drop-off into the third defense, which is the Miami Dolphins, going up against the Houston Texans at home in Miami, and I think it is important to make that distinction that the Miami Dolphins are at home, because the defense at home versus away is like night and day. At home, this defense is energetic. They're making these stops. They're making these crazy plays. They're getting interceptions. But when they're away, they get bent over a table and sodomized 50 Shades of Grey style. So now that this game is at home up against a dog shit Houston Texans offense, I fully expect a huge showing out of the Dolphins defense, and Dameon Pierce is about to get locked behind bars metaphorically in terms of his rushing attack. He's not going to be able to do anything, and he was a huge disappointment last week up against the Commanders on Sunday. So 22% owned for the Miami Dolphins. They're coming off of bye, so a lot of people will have already just dropped them, so you can pick them up. So we got to go ahead and hop in that time machine and look back to week number 10 in their game up against the Cleveland Browns. In that matchup, the Dolphins defense played pretty solid, 3 sacks, 1 fumble recovery, and 17 points allowed. The Browns got off to a hot start. As a Dolphins fan, I started to fucking panic. My knees got weak. My arms were heavy. Fucking mom's spaghetti Eminem style. I started to panic. I was like, oh my gosh, is this going to be another performance where we see the Dolphins defense come out flat and not be able to do anything? But they were at home and they had a good game, and they are one of the best defenses in all of the National Football League at stopping the run. This week, they are going up against the Houston Texans, and we'll reread the Commanders' numbers defensively up against the Texans last week in Houston. Again, 5 sacks, 2 interceptions, 1 touchdown, 10 points allowed. Realistically, the Miami Dolphins defense should take a dump on the chest of the Houston Texans offense and be able to easily steamroll this game defensively. Offensively, the Dolphins should smack the shit out of them as well. The Dolphins opened as minus 12 favorites in this game, and I fully expect the Dolphins defense to be a large part of why they shut down the Houston Texans, and the Texans will not be able to move the ball. Again, I do prefer the first 2 defenses. They're kind of in a tier of their own, the Commanders and the Broncos, and then the Dolphins are in a tier of their own at number 3. They're in tier number 2 of the defenses in terms of talking about these 5 defenses. But before we get into the final 2 defenses of today's video, I would like to give you guys a quick word for our friends and our sponsor over at BetMGM. They've been on your screen this whole entire time. If you are a brand new user to BetMGM and you click on the link in the video description down below or in the pinned comment, and you bet $10 on any World Cup game, you will win $200 in free bets if a goal is scored in the World Cup. A goal doesn't even have to be scored today. As you're watching today's video, if you bet on the game, say, for example, I'm going to throw this up on the screen. You're going to go to the top of the screen on BetMGM, click on soccer. We don't call it football here, right? It's soccer. And then you are going to navigate over. This is the example. USA plus 138 against Wales. USA could lose this game. They could shit the bed, have an awful game. Wales smacks them up. And still, as long as there's a goal scored today or tomorrow, the next day, someone's going to score a goal. You're guaranteed to get $200 in free bets. So make sure that you take advantage of this offer right now before it's too late, because this offer is only going to be going for the next 2 weeks, starting today. So make sure you guys do check that out. Next up, we move to my number 4 defense to be streaming on the week, the Carolina Panthers versus the Denver Broncos, 3% owned on Yahoo. Now, Nick, you just talked about, you gave some autofellatio about the Broncos defense. Well, guess what? The Carolina Panthers defense isn't even that bad, and the Broncos offense, Mr. Unlimited, Mr. Dangerous, sucks donkey cock at being a quarterback. And I know, it's not like the Panthers are the best defense in the NFL, but at this point, I'm willing to take the shot and say, you know what? The Broncos offense is such dick cheese that even a defense that I don't view in the highest of regard, I still think the Panthers defense will do good for fantasy. 3% owned on Yahoo. On basically every site, they're under 5% owned. Week 11 at the Baltimore Ravens. 3 sacks, 1 interception, and 13 points allowed. They made the Baltimore Ravens offense look inept. The Baltimore Ravens offense did not do jack shit until the very end of the game, where they won the game. The Panthers defense is legitimately pretty solid. Now, I'm not saying they're a top-end unit in the NFL. You don't need a top-end unit to stop Russell Wilson and this offense. They even switched play calling from Nathaniel Hackett to someone else, and it didn't fucking work. The Broncos offense is so bad. They even made the fucking Raiders defense. The Raiders defense is terrible. In Denver, not 1, not 2, 3 sacks, and they had just 16 points allowed. The game went to overtime. I'm not trying to sing the praises. Oh my God, the Panthers defense this, the Panthers defense that. But the Broncos offense is so bad. This game might be a straight up snooze fest, incredibly low scoring affair. Final defense to discuss in today's video, the Chicago Bears at the New York Jumbo Jets in MetLife. 5% owned on Yahoo. This is another case of where, hey, I don't really think the defense is the best. The Bears traded away the pieces. It is what it is, right? They don't have the best defense on earth, but the Jets offense is bad. It's bad. It is laughably bad. It was funny as fuck to see the New England Patriots run that punt in. I was laughing my ass off, and I hate the Patriots. I thought it was hilarious because of how bad the Jets were. They were averaging 2.2 inches per play on offense. 2.2 inches. Little Dick Zach couldn't get anything done. Micro cock Zach, they say he's the MILF hunter. How is he going to slay any MILFs with 2.2 inches down there? Fucking embarrassing. Embarrassing. So the Bears defense, week 11 at Atlanta, 2 fumble recoveries, 27 points allowed. Again, they're not that amazing. The Patriots defense versus the Jets, 4 sacks, 3 points allowed. Little Zach Wilson is fucked. He's so bad. And even if they play a little bit better against the Bears, which I think they will, he's still going to be prone to make mistakes. He's still going to get sacked. He's going to throw balls like he threw up against the Patriots that should have been easily picked off. So streaming your defense against Zach Wilson right now seems to be a solid trend to be riding with. So thank you guys all so much for watching today's video. If you ended up enjoying, make sure you hit that subscribe button down below as well as hitting that like button. It would help me out a ton. If you want to follow me on Twitter, please do so at NotoriousFNTSY. And make sure you guys check out our sponsor of today's video. They're on my hat as well. My hat's been backwards this whole entire time. BetMGM. Click on the link in the video description down below if you're a brand new user to activate that offer. If you bet $10 on any World Cup game, as long as there's a goal scored in the whole World Cup, you're going to receive $200 in free bets, which is guaranteed to happen. So make sure you guys check that out. Love you guys all. Hope you all have a great rest of your guys' day. I'll see you guys a little bit later with the waiver wire video. Love you guys, as always. Goodbye.